In this video, we are going to be taking a look at patterns with decimals. Now, the key essential question for this video is how can you use addition or subtraction to describe a pattern or create a sequence with decimals. Now, you will need to turn to page 143 within your Go Math book, get out your math journal, and also your pencil. So let's take a look at that problem on page 143. It says a state park rents canoes for guests to use at the lake. It costs $5 to rent a canoe for 1 hour, $6.75 for 2 hours, $8.50 for 3 hours, and $10.25 for 4 hours. If this pattern continues, how much should it cost Jason to rent a canoe for 7 hours? Now, taking a look at this problem, the first thing we need to do is we need to underline that question that we have to answer. And I want you to underline, how much should it cost Jason to rent a canoe for 7 hours? That's what we're going to check out. Now, looking on page 143, it says you can find the pattern in a sequence by comparing one term with the next term. Okay, so let's take a look at that step 1. It says write the terms you know in a sequence. Then look for a pattern by finding the difference from one term in the sequence to the next. Okay, so if we're taking a look at this, we know that the terms we know, $5 for 1 hour, $6.75 for 2 hours, and moving on down the line here. Now, what we need to do, we need to think about what is happening to that $5. That's making it $6.75. Now, we know what it is. It is increasing. Pretty obvious there. By how much? What we can do, we can take $6.75 and subtract $5 from it, and we can see how much it is increasing. And we see that it's increasing when we do that by $1.75. Now, we don't just say, okay, that's the pattern, and then call it quits. You need to make sure that this pattern works for every sequence, okay, and also as you compare the terms. So we take $6.75. What is happening to that in order to make it $8.50? Once again, $1.75 is added. $8.50 to $10.25. Once again, $1.75 is added. So we're starting to see a pattern. Now, what we can do is we can write a rule that describes the pattern in the sequence, and the rule that we can see here is add $1.75. Now, based upon this, we can answer the question. Okay, they're asking us how much is it going to cost Jason to rent a canoe for 7 hours. We only know how much it is for 4 hours. So what we have to do, we have to continue to add $1.75 until we get to 7 hours. Okay, so this puts it at 4 hours, and then $12 for 5 hours, another $1.75 added. 6 hours is $13.75, still not there yet. The 7th hour, $15.50. So it should cost $15.50, not a bad deal, to rent a canoe for 7 hours. And let's write that down. Some things you need to remember. Make sure that you just do not go from, one term to the next and say, okay, well, that's the pattern. You have to make sure that it's a reoccurring pattern for all of the different terms that you are given. There is a question to think about at the bottom of the page. Okay, and it's not there. So it is, what observation can you make about the pattern in the sequence that will help you write a rule? I talked about this right at the beginning. You can see that the terms are increasing. Pretty obvious there. Okay, therefore, since they're increasing, that's going to mean that we're going to use, the rule is going to include addition. Okay, let's take a look at another one on page 144. It says write a rule for the pattern in the sequence, then find the unknown terms in the sequence. Okay, so we have 29 and 6/10, 28 and 3/10, 27, 25 and 7/10. Now, what we need to do, first of all, look at the first few terms in the sequence. Okay, now what we want to think is the sequence increasing or decreasing from one term to the next. Now we can see that 29 and 6/10, and then 28 and 3/10, and then 27, then 25. We can see that the numbers are actually decreasing. Okay, they are decreasing in their value. So some things that we need to think about. Let's take a look at step 2. It says write a rule that describes the pattern in the sequence. Okay, now first of all, what operation can be used to describe a sequence that increases? Thinking through this, obviously addition. What operation can be used to describe a sequence that decreases? What we can see here, and what we're going to use is we're going to use subtraction. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to see what is happening to my 29 and 6/10. That's making it 28 and 3/10. Okay, so what we will need to do is take that problem. You do this right in your math journal. 29 and 6/10, and then 28 and 3/10. Subtract here, subtract the tenths place, and then the ones. Okay, so that's 1 and 3/10 that 29 and 6/10 decreased in order to get to 28 and 3/10. However, we are not finished yet. We need to see if this is going to happen for the next few terms. Okay, so now what we need to do, 28 and 3/10 minus 27. We'll just put our decimal point there, put a 0. You can see here 3 minus 0 is 3. 8 minus 7 is 1, so that's 3/10. Now you can see after that I took 27 and subtracted 25 and 7/10 right up here. Once again, 1 and 3/10. Okay, so what I need to do now, take my 25 and 7/10 and subtract 1 and 3/10 from it and keep on moving here. So we can see that our rule is subtract 1 and 3/10. Now after we have done that, we can use that rule, and we need to find the unknown terms and to complete the sequence above. So what we have to do, 25 and 7/10 minus 1 and 3/10. We subtract those two decimals, and that gives us 24. Whoops, 24. Let me erase that really quick. 24 and 4/10. We take 24 and 4/10, subtract 1 and 3/10. That gives us 23 and 1/10. And then finally 23 and 1/10 minus 1 and 3/10, following our rule, is 21 and 8/10. Okay, let's take a look at these ones at the bottom of page, these problems at the bottom of page 144. Okay, so what we have here, write a rule for the sequence, then find the unknown term. Okay, so what we can see here, we have 65 and 9/10. You can see the number is decreasing, so we know we're going to be using subtraction. Okay, and what is happening to that 59 and 9/10 and making it 65 and 3/10? So we check it out. We subtract the two. Okay, so that gives us 6/10. All right, and then we can even check 64 and 1/10 minus 63 and 5/10. That's going to give us 6/10 as well. So the rule is subtract. Let's write this down. 6/10. So what we need to do, take 65 and 3/10 and subtract 6/10 from that, and that will actually give us 64 and 7/10. Now, this for letter B, it's saying write the first 4 terms of the sequence. The rule start at 3500, so we'll write that. And they're already telling us the rule, so it's pretty easy. We just need to follow the rule. Then we need to add 1500ths to each one. So 3500ths plus 15 hundredths. We'll just set it up just like this. Okay, it's actually going to give us 50 hundredths for the next one. And then after that, adding 15, 65 hundredths. And then, I'm sorry, not adding 15, but 15 hundredths. And then adding 15 hundredths to the 65 hundredths is 80 hundredths. Okay, now we're going to the share and show section. I want you to complete these two problems at your seat all by yourself. And when you're finished, you can press play and I will have the answer for you. So work through these two problems and pause the video now. Okay, for the first one we had add 1 3/10. The second one, subtract 1 1/10. Now let's take a look at this problem. I want you to work through it all by yourself. Fill in the unknown term and write the rule. When you're finished, you can press play and I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, the answer is 6 4/10 for the unknown term, and the rule was add 2 3/10. So work through this next problem. When you're finished, you can press play and I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, the missing term is 3 49 hundredths. We know that it was decreasing, so it's going to be subtraction. So we subtract 1 1/12 for your answer. Okay, let's look at this next problem. I want you to complete it all by yourself. When you're finished, you can press play. I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, we see the missing term is 16 5/10. The rule is add 2/10. Okay, I want you to complete these three problems in your Go Math book. When you're finished, you can press play and I will have the answers for you. So pause the video now. Okay, here are the answers to the problems. Make sure that they match yours. If they do not, you may need to go back in the video, rewind it, and double check some of the problems I did. Okay, taking a look at the test prep problem, I want you to work through this problem all by yourself. When you're finished, you can press play and I will have the answer for you. So pause the video now. Okay, the answer is letter C. Wrapping up the video, the essential question, how can you use addition or subtraction to describe a pattern or create a sequence with decimals? To describe a pattern, you need to analyze the difference between one term and the next. To create a sequence, you need to use the pattern rule provided, which includes the starting value. So if you have any questions about patterns with decimals, please come and see me.